Thank you to the 1000th power. Thank your way to gratitude through the magnificent power of being thankful that is full of thanks 1,000 times every day. Manifesting a prosperous tomorrow by living in a positive now of daily gratitude of that which I'm thankful. By Coach Stefan Rudolph. Chapter 1. Consciously conscious. The accidental awakening. Becoming consciously conscious in awareness begins with gratitude. Head on! Airbags deployed. Death rattled down my spine. Full car crash impact with a center median at 50 miles an hour shook me to no end. Shattered glass from the windshield flew on me, over me, around me, and through me. Blood running down my arms, my entire life flashed before my eyes. I awoke. I found myself gasping for breath and fighting for life. A life I so desperately wanted to leave with just seconds earlier was now a life I found myself fighting to keep. Suddenly, I now wanted to live based on the shock and terror of this near-death experience. A new consciousness awakening immediately shifted my mindset to connect with my heart on how precious life really is and how quickly it can be lost. Smoke began rising from the engine. Gaseous fumes diverted directly through the vents and began taking what life was left in me out of my lungs. Death was knocking, but I was not ready to answer. I was not going to live to tell about it if I didn't act on faith and face the fact that I still had a life to live outside of this demolished vehicle. The option to leave this world and end life as I knew it was given to me at this very moment. I quickly declined. I chose to live. I chose to fight, and I chose not to give up. I chose life. This was a life that took me 32 years to build, 3 years to kill, and 1 moment to nearly leave. Yet this night, I awoke to a new option and a new choice I had to make about my path in life. The answer came to me immediately as I looked in the rearview mirror to acknowledge my bloody self. No, I'm not giving up, I shouted to myself in the rearview mirror, to my new self. My life and the world I had financially built around me was over, yet my heart and my new desire to live had just begun. Tears of terror, tears of hardship, and tears for fear began to stream down my face as this rearview mirror image of me and my life shook me to the core. Here I saw the death of the man I once thought I was in life. Yet instead of giving up, for the first time in life, I gave in, and I began to fight back for my new life. Looking in the mirror, looking at my new self, and my old self that had died, I repeated, "This is my fault. I am to blame. I did this to myself, and now I must get myself out of it." This thought shouted in my mind over and over. It was to no one else except to me, except to my new self, the one that was now in charge. Quote, "Through an awakening of divine consciousness at this very moment of impact, the life I wanted to leave was now the life I wanted to live. I wanted to live for the love of life." End quote. Both my forearms were immediately fully bruised from the shock of the deployed driver's side airbag. Purple, black, and white, I watched as these painful colors quickly faded into red. Blood began to flow from the broken glass that cut deep within me and awoke me with shock I fought to no avail for my escape from death out of the car. The driver's side door was slammed shut from the impact beyond my strength. I was symbolically locked in the car just as I had been locked in the insanity of my life of escapism for the past 3 years, yet seemingly in divine timing and empathy followed into me and through me in the midst of my current survival mode. An empathic way to find a whole new life. I saw through the lights of the accident, and I saw through my new light in life how this horrific accident was related to my entire life. Everything had collapsed, yet my engine in life was still running, and I did not want to shut it off. Not just yet. Here at this moment, my spirit awoke in sudden divine consciousness from being fueled with a gratitude for life, an attitude of gratitude for wanting to stay in life, stay focused on life, and simply stay alive for life. Yet still, my ego wanted out. Death was knocking, and it was the ego's only goal and only intent of the night to answer this knock. Yet through spirit and its willingness to live, this goal was not accomplished. It was very symbolic, symptomatic, yet somewhat problematic. This awakening to this moment for me to see my inner being battling my outer being. The inner being being that of the heart versus the outer being that of the ego. It was a push and pull moment of my first awareness of true self-being versus my past selfish being, both of whom were fighting for custody. A custody entailing either ending my life or beginning my new life. In this moment of, quote, now, was the moment I chose the latter for my new being to be born. I now saw that this car accident was not an accident. It was the life I had created, and one that I had now come to an end, that I had now seen come to an end. I had to accept this fact, along with the fact that, quote, I could not get out, end quote. Not only get out of the car at this moment, but get out of the insanity of life that I had built around me for one thing and one thing only: money. When the money left, my desire to live left with it. If I wanted out of this car, the care for intent to live could not be about money. It had to be about life itself. Now, not only was the money and the material items I earned over the years completely gone, so was my life. But not gone was my will and my willingness to live a new life. That life was willingly born at this exact moment. It had been stuck in this pit of failure for 3 years, all the while thinking that I would make my way out of it tomorrow, yet tomorrow never came. I battled escapism all along and finally faced death head on this evening. And in the moment of impact, my heart actually awoke and all my fear had actually left. The change that occurred as I faced death head on was a change in my willingness to fight and my willingness to live. I felt it, I lived it, I wanted it, and I began to love it. The it was life, my new life. And I knew I no longer wanted to leave. I truly wanted to live. The difference in leave and the difference in live is replacing the EA with the I, and I began to live a new life. All along this path of prosperity that I traveled for 14 years prior, I awoke this evening realizing that I was never truly grateful for the wonderful life I was living. I had worked so hard to achieve success, but always seemed to be left wanting more and more and more. It was never enough. Even when living in riches and an abundant lifestyle, more was never good enough. I was never truly fulfilled and never truly happy. Until now. Now, everything I worked for was gone. Without living in gratitude, I had destroyed it. Through all my negative thinking, always wanting more, and never being satisfied, true happiness was never in my life until now. Now, at this very moment, the life I had created was the life I had now ended. Yet what followed was a new, unforeseen, majestic feeling of happiness. The happiness to be alive. And that alive was this new life. All along up to this evening, I could no longer face and no longer handle reality. I wanted out. I wanted to escape. I wanted to end it. I wanted to leave this world. Death was a choice, yet so was change. I now, at this very moment of impact, chose the latter, and that was to change. This evening of the accident, a new door in my life had opened, and the old door of my past life had closed. Yet in the true moment of now, I was literally locked in. I had been working my way toward death and knocking on its door for 3 years. Then, upon death's arrival, I did not want to go. Instead, I wanted to live. I wanted my new life to begin. Now, at the scene of the accident, this breakthrough moment had arrived, and I couldn't get out of death's way fast enough. Yet even more in the now, I could not push hard enough to get out of this total vehicle, as it was so symbolic to me of my past and my current totaled life. I wanted out, and I wanted to live. Everything leading up to this accident, I found myself, was drinking, gambling, escaping, and repeating the mode of insanity to avoid life's reality and the hardships of which I had created. I was stuck in the insanity of repetition until the very moment of impact this evening upon my accidental awakening. My accidental awakening. As I looked up into the rearview mirror again, blood-ridden and soaked full of fear, I actually calmed myself and achieved a moment of clarity. I did so by realizing I truly did want to live this life now. I had won the moment of now, and now I had owned the moment of life. No matter what it gave me, life was not worth leaving. It was now worth facing in order to grow. I had to look up, I had to get up, and I had to grow up. In this moment, calmness took over and continued to remain as I acknowledged that life as I knew it was over. I then blessed this past life. I blessed it all, saying, "Thank you, God, for my past life. Thank you for this clarity, and thank you for my sanity in this moment. Thank you, God, for everything you have given me. Thank you, thank you, thank you." Over and over, I repeated this, so thankful to be alive. Blessing every moment for what it was to live for me and for all that it had given me. Blessing all that it had done for me in order to grow, to come into this perfect moment of now, to see what this world has in store for me. At this moment of now, while sitting in the total vehicle, it was my past life which was completely demolished. Yet it was my past life that led me to obtaining, maintaining, and regaining a present moment of gratitude. I was now able to make space in my mind, through my soul, to be grateful and full of gratitude. I was unable to escape through escapism, and my only option left was to awaken. And I awoke. I had to be in the moment of now and be full of thanks, that is, thankful, full of thanks, and that of which I was at this point. Suddenly I saw through this present mindset of awareness that my life and how I lived it was a choice. And if I made the choice to escape, I made the choice to ruin it. It was my choice. If I made a choice to give up, then I made the choice to leave it. Yet by having these choices, I could also make the choice to face it. I could make the choice to rebuild it, and I could make the choice to live it. I knew I had to find myself, my true self, within this self, otherwise I would find myself without life. Again, I had to find my new self, my true self. Yet within this life, if I didn't find myself, I would have lost myself and died this evening. Quote, I sought for a way to find the new me by no longer fighting for a way to escape from the old me. End quote. In a half-conscious state of mind, bloody and bruised, I chose not to give up. I prayed and pushed hard against the driver's side door. The door was stuck. I prayed again, but to no avail. I still could not get out. My life was passing before me, and I knew not what to do, yet I continued to repeatedly pull the door latch and with all my might slam my shoulder into and attempting a breakthrough. Still, just as all prior attempted breakthroughs in life failed over and over again, this breakthrough failed as well. It failed again and again. I was not able to get out. Yet even more suddenly at this very moment, an entire state of acceptance, an entire state of wellness, and an entire state of calmness took over through the wholeness of my heart, through my entire body, my mind, and my soul. One I had never felt before in my life. Confidence from my inner being warmed and calmed this moment of chaos with peace from my inner being to my outer being. I then chose 6 seconds of time into which I closed my eyes and visualized the breath I was about to breathe. The breath which I took was my new life. The accident, the chaos, the fight for life, all left in this moment. The monkey mind was quiet. The spirit was awoke. I then visualized this new life before action and focused on how blessed my life was in this moment of breath. I repeated this process 2, 3, then 4 times. Drunkenness, pills, intoxication, all of which were physically in me at the time of the accident, that is the accidental awakening. They seemingly left my mind and my body. I was clear with life and clear with clarity on what to do. I was taken over and fueled by the new will of the new spirit in me to live. I was fueled to act, fueled to succeed, fueled to live, and fueled from the spirit of hope in my heart. My body and I at this moment were taken by calmness, yet fueled by confidence. I instinctively began counting my heart rate and focused on calmness in the pause of my breath. I relaxed. I visualized the outcome I so desperately needed at this moment in order to be a part of life. Yet disparity left as calmness and oneness took over. I then turned my visions and my breath into actions, as from my core belief came the core inner strength necessary to slam my entire body weight into the door with all my might one last time. Suddenly, the door to my new life flew open. All the while gasping for breath and fighting the smoke that continued to build as I fought for life, I realized my one fully focused last-ditch effort of strength had worked. I had opened the door to my new life and lived to tell about it. I then saw this barrier I broke through, not as a door from a smoking car, but as a door to my new life. That was it. This was it. I had lived it. I had broke through a new clear vision from the eyes of my soul. This car accident was in and of itself a symbolic representation of what had been holding me back from change and holding me back from growth. My willingness to fight to live for life was now unstoppable. Slam! The door swung open, hitting a portion of the rail from the median that I had crashed into minutes prior. I knew that my mental and emotional barriers had now been broken. I escaped death. There was a second chance at life. This was it. It was waiting for me outside the car door. I made it out. I again focused on breath, inhaled the smoke, fought for oxygen, yet all the while remained thankful and rolled out of the vehicle to crawl to my new life. I physically collapsed on the glass-filled asphalt and with all my might began to drag myself to the side of the road for safety. After surviving a head-on collision with a center median pedestrian walkway, I was covered in blood and filled with glass fragments. I then stumbled to my knees and crawled to the sidewalk. This accident was in the middle of the city of Petaluma, California, a quiet suburb town in Northern California, where when the impact happened at 1 a.m. on a weeknight, everyone who was asleep in the neighborhood, of course, was now awoke. The vehicle was totaled as the engine continued smoking and the airbag smoke billowed coughs through my lung. Glass everywhere, blood running down my arms, I awoke to a new reality as I reached for the first means of support in my new life, the curb. I lifted myself up and rolled onto the grass. The smell of smoke that continued to follow the illumination of the totaled vehicle in front of me was horrific. It set off a deep fear I knew I never would forget. The fear of how close I had come to death, the fear of reality. 3 years prior, I was living the American dream. Happily married to a wonderful wife, residing in a $1 million home overlooking Disneyland in Anaheim, California, while holding a very successful pharmaceutical sales career with one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the nation. Everything that is defined as the American dream was how I was living, financially. Everything except the ability to open my heart, be thankful for life, and love the world around me. I could not do it. There was a void in my life at this time. I didn't see it, but deep down inside, subconsciously, I could feel it. I was living with it. That of the inability to face life on life's terms and look within myself to find myself, that was my void. A self that did not include money or material items. I could not see any type of life without it. A true self. My true self. I had to find it, but was in constant denial of acknowledging what I was missing. To me, I wasn't missing anything because I had everything financially. Yet still, there was a void. And that void was happiness. My soul was calling to fill the void that was in my mind, yet my ego, that continued with excuses through the mouth, denied access to this connection. Yes, the ego denied access of my soul to life. The two clashed. The void was in my mind. The answer was in my heart. Yet the excuses in between these two areas, that coming from the mouth, kept the two from ever connecting. A mouth full of excuses. Therefore, I could not find true peace and true happiness. A short 3 years later, I found myself living with my parents at 34 years old. During this time, I had gone through a complete financial collapse due to the lethal combination of epilepsy, alcoholism, gambling, and a life involving total denial and constant escapism. I could not face life and could not be a part of life. Yet I could not end my life through suicide. I chose to escape through alcohol. My addictive behavior began to exude in abundance from being fueled daily by alcohol. The development of a narcissistic personality is what followed. My true personality and foundation of being caring, giving, and loving was slowly diluted over the years from an ego fueled as an engine is fueled by alcohol. An ego that lived a life of denial and selfish daily decision-making behaviors. Behaviors that negatively affected others. Yet a behavior pattern that would not stop. The behavior is known as addiction. I was living it, in it, a part of it, but not able to ever acknowledge it. It's not my fault. That's how I looked at life when life was not going my way. The evening of this divine destiny known as an accident was an evening shared by the death of my being and the awakening of my soul. The two events shared the same time and shared the same physical space. Together, being the yin and the yang, they too shared the same meaning. From there, my spirit for life was born. If constant denial continued to follow, it would have been an accident. Yet with an awakening, it was divine destiny recognized through simplicity, revealing a new path I called life. Even in the accident, I could see now it was life's destiny. Two paths in my life crossed, and both lives came to merge as one. One that ended, and one that fueled itself off of this ending in order to begin. Yet for them to come together was truly not an accident. This coinciding event of this timing coming together in my life corresponded as one. The car crash, the addiction, the escapism, the awakening, all combined with a sudden burst of energy known as happiness, and created the new love within my life, for my life, with my life, as I began to live life in that very second of that very moment. All were now one. I awoke. I wanted to live, and even more, I wanted to be alive. No longer just for financial reasons, but for the simplistic reason we call life. There was too much out there for me to do in life. There was too much out there for me to be. There was much too much out there for me to end my life. There was too much out there for me to be in life, for me to end this life at this moment. Too much out there for me to see in life. Too much out there for me to live in life. Over and over, I realized this during this awakening. And way, way too much was out there in my heart now for me to ever want to leave this life ever again. I knew vast amounts of opportunity in this world awaited me in my awakening. I could see it now. I could feel it now. And I actually began to be it now and live in that moment of now. I knew it, I loved it, I lived it. All in the now. It was the moment of now in which I found myself, my new self. It was a whole new world I now did not want to give up on. Instead, I wanted to give in and start living and start growing in every moment moving forward. For the first time in years, I wanted change. I wanted to grow and I wanted to live. At this very moment, I wanted to start over and find my new self on this new path. A new man of which I knew I truly did not know at this moment yet a man I knew I needed to find. This life that awaited me was a new life of a new manhood for me to grow into. I had to humble the ego, breathe my breath of life, be thankful, because at this time I knew it was there. I could feel it, and I knew I would be living it from this point forward. I found myself in a bloody fetal position on the sidewalk at the scene of the accident. Laying there crying in the wake of pain on the grassy knoll adjacent to the curb of the accident, I observed just a few feet from me my near-death experience. This was my complete past life going up in smoke, going up in flames, fighting to handle the never-before amount of physical pain I was experiencing. I wept hard for escape and cried long for life. It was a pain I had never felt before in my 34 years. Yet it was a pain I now knew I had to feel in order to grow in life. This was the true difference I felt through awareness. This was the shift. The holy shift. A shift I needed and I had subconsciously planned for years. I now wanted to face the pain as I had faced the accident, head on. I had so much guilt flowing in me, through me, and out of me at this very moment as I wept on the sidewalk. I felt as if I deserved this pain for what it's worth in order to grow. I said that to myself. I felt that in myself, for myself, with myself, through myself. I deserve this pain for what it's worth in order to grow. I was no longer experiencing it with anger, though. I was not experiencing it with guilt about my past life and my past mistakes, but I was experiencing it with a new form of gratitude. Quote, "We must find the way, find the path, and find the light that pierces through the veil of anger that covers our happiness with love." Again, we must find the way, find the path, and find the light that pierces through the veil of anger that covers our happiness with love. Through awareness in this moment, I saw this as a new truth for a whole new life for me. Even in the immense amount of horrific physical pain that I came into through and around my body from the accident, I found gratitude. Gratitude for breath, gratitude for life, gratitude that came by simply looking up in the moment of now with appreciation for breathing and appreciation for living. Two very basic items in life that all I know out there take for granted every day. Observing the total vehicle in front of me and realizing what life was all about, I began to breathe. Simply breathe. I was breathing slowly. Not just breathing, but breathing the breath of the moment of now from the heart. The breath from the heart that centers the mind and clears the consciousness of excuses through awareness. It cleared the ego out of my life. I cleared it through awareness. Slowly I breathed in, my eyes closed, my heart awoke, my mind settled, my awakening was here. I could feel it. The closet full of fears in which my mind lived for years had now been opened up. Tears began to continually flow in abundance. Yet good tears is how they felt for me now. While shedding these tears, I smiled. I smiled for life. It was a happiness for life I had never felt. True happiness that I could now feel deep down inside. Happiness for what life had taught me in my journey, taught me in my past, and continued to teach me for what I now had to look forward to in life. I wept in gratitude. For every breath life now gave me, I gave back 1,000 times more in gratitude. The gratitude that flowed in me evolved from the black smoke hazy from the black smoke haze that continued to rise from the car engine in front of me. The haze that surrounded the scene of this so-called negative accident showed me one true spiritual growth fact of this moment. It was no accident. I was now able to see through this haze, and through this newfound sight of seeing, I saw a whole new reality. It was a reality of the now, the moment of now. It was happening for me, to me, and around me, for me to acknowledge in order to grow. The accident was not my conscious choice this evening, yet now, in this moment of experience, in this moment of now, I felt that growth was, and now always will be, my choice. I chose growth as a permanent form of intellect in my life to live with life, through life, from every moment forward. I knew now that a passion for life, which had been living subconsciously in my heart, had now broken free and awoken in this light, this new light for life. It had now been lifted through my body and came to awareness in my mind. I was alive, and I was now alive to live for purpose. I loved it. I wanted to live it. I accepted it. I welcomed it. I lived it over and over again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The sorrow my ego had felt for years for so-called failure by society standards was lifted. The past was suddenly washed away from me as the present took flight. This moment showed me in the permanent form how to acknowledge the fact that my future was bright. I suddenly felt a newfound happiness for life and all its majestic wonders as I was lifted up. The luminous form of positivity that surrounded me was what I now saw as life. This light in the moment of life shed an all-knowingness upon me that a guardian out there had spared my life this evening and offered me another chance to change my life. And here, I cordially accepted. Quote, evolving from this feeling of pain was gratitude. Gratitude that my ego had died, my body had lived, and my spirit had risen. End of quote. Awakening this evening was a spirit of life that wanted to show me what it was like to be free, to show me what it was like to live a life of freedom by living life for every moment in the moment of now. I realized that the future entails empty nothingness without this new present being of awareness in my life. Awareness that leads to happiness, of which I found the connecting dots this evening. The present of life that I unwrapped this evening was in the form of the present itself. To me, the present being of happiness was unwrapped and revealed by my new self. To me, the present being of happiness was unwrapped and revealed my new self, of which I found would live in me through awareness from this moment forward in the now. To me, what I had awakened to this evening symbolized my life. Everything I had worked for and everything I had achieved financially in life literally went up in smoke right in front of me. That was it. I had lost every dime, every nickel, every penny of everything financially I had in life, and burned my stepfather's vehicle that evening. Totaled it, everything. Everything but my heart, though. My heart, my mind, and my soul all connected the dots, and I awoke in this new life. My worldly life was gone, yet my spiritual life had just begun. At this time of the accident this evening, and for the past 15 years up to this point in my life, not only alcoholism, addiction, and escapism played a role in my escapism tactics of how I lived, but also was included in my battle with the disease known as epilepsy. Having suffered a severe concussion in high school football that led to a 3-day coma and dealing with related epileptic issues ever since, I was now awaiting brain surgery in 1 year if the approval from my neurologist at the time of this accident was given to me. All these coinciding events raced through my mind as I poured my thoughts onto the curb this evening, sitting in wake of the accident scene in front of me, tears flowing down my cheeks. An accident I had caused just moments earlier, yet an accident that I now confirmed was that accidental awakening that I needed in life. Nothing was more surreal than to roll out of this fetal position as I laid up on the curb this evening and watched the road of my life take such a dramatic turn. This awakening showed me what I had to face in order to grow. I had been living the past 3 years in constant denial of my problems, constant denial of my issues, and constant denial of reality. My lifestyle up to this point was not only negatively affecting me, myself, personally, but also those around me. With this empathy of a feeling of care and love for others at this moment came a self-realization of how there was more to this world than just me. The ego, the narcissism that was fueled by the ego, slowly died out of me. Alcohol and escapism diluted my need to care for others over the years. It instituted only a need to fuel what hurt others the most in my life, and that was addiction. It fueled addiction. It fueled escapism. I now knew this change, this awakening, was my destiny in order to show my love for others and help others as well. All my mistakes, my regrets, my past emotions, my past feelings of failure, they all suddenly left. A weight had been lifted off my shoulders. Lost along the path of my life was financial success, yet gained this evening from this loss was a new form of found success. A success in eliminating the pain and anger of what it meant to be living life over the past few years for me. It no longer hurt to live because I wanted to live. I wanted to face the physical pain and deal with it. Now knowingly aware that this is a true part of life, this is a true part of love, and this is a true part of achieving and maintaining happiness in life, I felt it. I was born and born again. With pain follows love. With love follows life. With life follows happiness. Yet as well, I could now see and was accepting of the fact that happiness was not immediate. I had to accept pain in order to grow, and I had to grow in order to institute happiness down the road. Again, there I sat on the curb, bleeding and crying, yet breathing and thankful, all of which were a fuel factor for me to truly realize how grateful I was to be alive. Thankful for the curb itself of which I sat on. Thankful for the grass, thankful for my breath. I was thankful for life. I was thankful for now seeing clearly what I was looking for in life, seeing clearly how loneliness had suddenly vanished. The loneliness that had been in me for years had suddenly vanished, even on this curb. Seeing around me how I had just found me, the real me, in the wake of this accident. Seeing how precious life truly can be felt and lived if I followed a pattern of living in awareness and living with gratitude. The curb I sat on and the sidewalk I laid on felt good. They actually felt good. It was painful. It was bloody. It was hardship, but it was good. I felt a whole new attitude and saw that life truly was worth living again. I saw once again how it was revealed to me at this moment in my life that my past life was meant to be. I was never satisfied, never happy, and I was never content with accomplishments. This feeling, this awakening, this awareness shook me to the core. There had to be more to life than what I was taught by society. Diplomas, degrees, status, financial success, all were a part of my life, but were not a part of me. The me that wanted to truly be happy, needed to find the true me to be and obtain and maintain that happiness. That me was found this evening. Contentment with life is null and void when contentment for oneself is lacking. These quotes and ideas like this began racing through my head. I realized it now. I knew and acknowledged thoughts such as these at this moment on the curb. None of this most recent success in my life ever brought it true. Never did I ever see this before, this long-lasting happiness. I couldn't even imagine it before. Money was so short-term, I was never happy. I always wanted more. The happiness money brought was not true happiness. In my life overall, the need for more is what it brought. I needed more and more. And all that followed and continued to grow was this need and a discontent for myself. Quote, "The heartfelt feelings of love are material free." End quote. Everything in life I had worked to achieve was not how I felt it would be when I had it all. My ego wanted more, but could never get enough. There was always more out there, yet more was always never enough. As I sat on the curb observing life and asking God the reason for my existence, tears began and continued to flow more and more. I felt like a man who should have died this evening. Watching the smoke-filled car that was now completely totaled, I felt that should have been me. I should have died in there. I felt that was my life, and it should have ended this evening. True to the fact it was. I was ever so lucky and ever so thankful to be out of there. Yet I asked myself, out loud, in the mid-evening, darkness and loneliness around me, I asked, why didn't I die? The loneliness wasn't in me, though. I asked myself out loud in this muffled voice, bewildered of what was going on, confident, yet happy. They all were new feelings at the same time. For losing everything, I was happy, I asked myself. But I was, and I began to smile. I waited quietly in smoke-filled tears. There was no answer to this question of why did I die. I just knew I wanted to live. And asking myself, why did I live? With this question followed an answer out loud, filled with confidence. I don't want to die. I want to be alive. I want to live. I told myself out loud. I told myself, two entities. Then at this very moment, a part of me that wanted to be alive acknowledged the part of me that wanted to die. The part of me that wanted to be in this total vehicle and no longer be out of this, and no longer be a part of this world was truly acknowledged. Life is harder than death. That's what I realized. Death is a choice. So is life. I now saw the difference and again choose the latter. I chose the latter because life was harder than death and I wanted to face it. I acknowledge this part. I acknowledge these thoughts. I acknowledge these feelings. And what they brought forth, these feelings were good. And with this process of acknowledgement taking place, came with it the revealing fact that these thoughts and feelings that were put into me by my ego to escape and die suddenly vanished. They no longer existed. I called out the ego and now saw who was behind it all. Behind my anxiety, behind my depression, behind my life of chaos over the past 3 years, especially in these past 3 years. Chaos everywhere. I could now see who was behind it. Immediately through acknowledgement of the ego, these thoughts and their intent to digress, change, and continue failure in my life, in my feelings and my thoughts were eliminated. My ego wanted me to remain the same or die. It was a part of me that has succeeded in the past, yet became a part of me that failed. I then saw the fact that when the ego fails, it wants you to give up on life completely. That is where suicide comes in. That was not my option. I came to light to see that the ego is only one temporary being and feels that when its life is over, life should be over completely for you. It's not. I told myself life is never over unless you choose it to be over. I chose life, and I found this new life at this very moment. These past thoughts fought to come back, but I fought even harder to recognize them. I fought hard to once again acknowledge them, and fought twice as hard to focus on fighting less and seeking peace more in life. These thoughts then were once again eliminated. I was at a loss for why I was still alive, yet I was happy to be alive. I looked up and began to pray, not asking for forgiveness, but simply asking, why? Why am I here, God? The car showed me the path I was on. Totaled. That was my past life. That's where this past path had ended. Yet the tears suddenly showed me and revealed to me the path I should continue to be on, a path of happiness. There is more to live. There is more to live for in life, more to do in life, and more to be in life. Everything I had worked for and everything I thought I was supposed to be in life financially was not my true form of being. It was not my true existence. It was not happiness. And most definitely, it was not my true why in life. With smoke-filled tears continuing out of my eyes and just going down cheeks everywhere, tears everywhere, with smoke-filled eyes of tears, I knew there was more to life than I had to find. With smoke-filled eyes of tears, I knew there was more to life than I had to find. Tears of anger, anguish, and regret continued to flow. Surrounding porch lights then turned on from the nearby houses of the accident and began to enlighten me to my new true reality. I knew the sound of the impact that occurred just minutes earlier in this quiet residential neighborhood was horrific. The blood-soaked tears in the asphalt mixed with the reality of how lucky I was to be alive. Again, I was thankful. The tears began to flood the street beneath me. Tears of gratitude. Yet a transition continued to occur in these first few moments of my new life. These tears of shame, regret, and anger began to flow in those tears of joys that I loved, joy of life, joy of living, and joy of heart. Enjoy. I enjoyed life now. A flood of new heartfelt emotions took over and flowed through my body and mind and continued that way. Then, as these emotions flowed, for the first time in my life, I simply laid down resistance and woke up to acceptance within the moment of now. Then, just as quickly, a flood of all-knowingness from this occurrence hit me, an all-knowingness that I knew nothing and there was everything to learn in this world. This had to happen to me in order for me to grow, in order for me to add strength, in order for me to add courage, and in order for me to have an adaptive understanding to the meaning of my overall life. I now felt it, I now knew it, I now accepted it, and with this acceptance, I now lived it. The tears then slowed, along with my breath. My breathing continued, steady, as a newfound peace was acknowledged. With this peace came sudden true clarity, a clarity of why I was here in this world to live this life suddenly made it a life I now wanted to live and not wanted to leave any longer. I could now see that we all have something to live for in life. And when I found what my something was and how my somethingness came from nothingness this evening, I wanted to live. It broke me down to the core and built me up all in the very same moment, the moment of now. Right then and there, I knew I had to find my purpose. Suddenly, subconsciously, I awoke. A faint murmur came back to me from this newfound voice within. And for the first time, I was able to consciously recognize it and, moreover, consciously understand it and how it was showing me the steps to achieving true, fulfilled happiness in my life. Thank you. I said out loud to myself. I didn't know exactly what I was thankful for at this very moment, but it suddenly felt good. The tears flowed back harder, knowing that I had experienced this life-changing moment in order to grow and in order to be in and in order to help others. Never give up. The tears flowed harder, knowing that I had experienced this life-changing moment in order to grow and in order to be, and in order to help others never give up. I said, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I continued to repeat over and over as these thoughts raced through my head. I repeated thank you out loud 2 times, 4 times, 6 times, a dozen times as these thoughts raced through my head. The thoughts that 15 years of epilepsy, 2 hernia surgeries, a pulmonary embolism, 3 endoscopies, 2 epileptic car accidents, loss of my driver's license, 2 DUIs, all the while battling alcohol addiction for nearly 20 years, coupled with a recent gambling addiction for the past 3 years, combined with rehab, bankruptcy, divorce, financial collapse, all of this on the cusp of waiting for brain surgery and having to live with my parents after losing everything at 34 years old. Technically, by society standards, my life was over. But no, tonight, this evening, and in this moment, I chose to live. Thank you, I said again and again, as these facts of my past life were presented to me this evening, along with the fact that I was still alive. I chose my life in the now to be thankful for in this sudden moment of clarity, instead of focusing on what and who I was in my past. I woke up. While sitting on the curb, I discovered my newfound life. This fact of establishing a new foundation here and now, I could feel it. The foundation helps to completely shift my attitude on life overall in this very instant, in this very moment. The accident did not take my life this evening. No, on the contrary, it gave me life. I thanked God for my life as it was spared one more time. On this hard road I had been living on, I now told myself, I'm not here to give up. I'm here to give in. I'm here to give in and let go and let God take over, because now I'm here to live. Death knocked at its loudest this evening for me in my life. But upon awakening to this whole new reality, I was no longer willing to run. Instead, I was willing and ready to act. I then said out loud again, thank you, and I felt it even more. It was me. It was my inner being. It was my soul. It was my awakening. It was my destiny. Knowing now why I was sent through hell this evening, and knowing now my purpose for going through and growing through this incident in life, I truly knew, felt, and believed all this was fully meant to be. It was part of my life, in my life, for my life, in order to grow my life. And that I did. Although these circumstances and obstacles did not come with an instruction booklet nor directions, I knew the answer this evening was simply choosing life over death. That being the fact The ego, my conscious mind, could not handle it and became even more upset. With an answer, without an answer, and without someone or something else to blame, the ego in me was livid. I could feel it. Yet I was aware of it. And now, through awareness, I recognized it. I called its bluff. And I did not blame, and I did not let blame stunt my spiritual growth in this moment. Instead, I stood up in this moment through spirit and took full blame and responsibility for these decisions in my life and all of their outcomes for where and how I ended up this evening. I simply knew through this newfound awakeness that there was true meaning to every outcome, good or bad, and knew now that the sooner I recognized the bad and was grateful for its existence and began focusing on gratitude, growth would soon follow. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Again and again, it continued to roll from my soul, came from my heart, spoke through my tongue, and fueled my entire being and entity with positive energy right on the curb this evening. It felt good, immensely good. It became louder and louder as I physically recited these two words. That made me feel life for the first time. More confidence built within me. I was in the zone, and I did not want to leave. This wasn't a game I played on the courts. This was the game of life, and I was in it. I was living it. I was feeling it. I was a part of it. It was the heart within me, being thankful. Suddenly, a concerned neighbor made his way out and asked me, "Are you okay?" Around me, on me, through me, and in me lied blood, glass, smoke, and tears. The answer was obvious physically. No, I was not okay. But mentally and emotionally, and moreover now, spiritually, upon this awakening, I could not stop the tears from rolling down my cheeks onto the curb beneath me. They weren't tears from the beer. They weren't tears from fears. They were tears of joy. While at the same time, I did not want them to stop. They were my first tears of joy ever. They were tears for this new life. He saw me and knelt beside me with concern, touching my shoulder and saying, "You'll be all right. It's okay. You'll be all right." I simply looked up and eye to eye, man to man, answered through bloody tears, "Thank you." As he had walked up, I said thank you. As he was in the moment of now, I said thank you. And I still felt thankful. I smiled. Growth continued. It felt good. Thank you. Again, I thanked him for his concern, but then looked back at the total vehicle again and continued with passion. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It was repetition, but it felt good. On and on, it did not stop. Sitting on the curb, getting up, I sunk my head. Sitting on the curb and about to get up, I sunk my head between my knees and continued to cry tears of joy. Tears of joy. Although he thought they were tears of sorrow, I cared less now about what others thought of me and more about how thoughts impacted my spiritual growth. I stayed focused on me for me and cried for my past life dying and cried for my new life beginning. It was a combination, and it was good. A life in this moment of now that had begun. I continued and repeated it non-stop. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Non-stop. I knew he thought it was sadness, but it was truly the opposite. It was happiness, for which I cried this evening. Happiness for life. I found the cure in my life for depression. I found the cure in my life for my anger. I found the cure in my life for all my regrets. I found the cure for my hostile view of escapism and blaming others. I found the ultimate prescription for happiness. I had shifted my anger and regret to thankfulness and gratitude, and by doing so, I found the new light in life. The fire department and ambulance then pulled up. Again, of course, I said thank you. The neighborhood man humbly sat in quiet bewilderment by my side, looking on with astonishment, not knowing whether to be happy or sad. I could tell he didn't understand it. I could feel he didn't understand how I could be so thankful and even smiling at times. As the blood from my past life continued to soak the curb and mark its territory with my memories, he respectfully remained silent during my aha moment of life. After so many thank yous, I suddenly found myself filled with the new emotion of enlightenment, enlightened at the feeling it felt to be alive. Never before had such a feeling crossed my mind, yet alone my heart, as it did in this moment. In the moment of now was given to me my new life. I stood up in bold confidence with a feeling of relief and happiness as I stared directly into my past life's collapse and viewed the scene of the accident. I then confirmed with a reason of thanks out loud by acknowledging my healthy body and being thankful for the life that did not leave me. I said, "Thank you, God, for letting me live. Thank you for not taking my life. Thank you for my breath. Thank you for my health. Thank you for the family who has stayed by my side, and thank you for their love for me. Thank you for this world around me. Thank you, God, for this opportunity to live in awareness. Thank you for showing me the light. Thank you for giving me the life. Thank you for showing me that through each great pain, there will be even greater gain. Thank you for opening my mind, God. Thank you for opening my heart. Thank you for opening the spirit within me to live. I don't want to die anymore. I want to live. Thank you, God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." I turned directly and thanked the man, who now stood next to me as well. I gave him a direct, meaningful, heartfelt thanks from the heart for his heart and effort in being there for me to give me comfort in my time of need. Even with his wrinkled brow, still looking on in curiosity from trying to decipher how I could be so thankful in a time of pain, it was still good to know that someone, even one I had never met, could care about me in this moment. I looked him straight in the eye again and said, "Thank you for coming out with concern. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I truly appreciate it. Thank you." Quote, "Define life before life defines you. Until now, life defined me. From now on, I knew I had the power to define life the way I wanted to read it." End quote. I was mesmerized in thought and lost in transition of this new alignment in my life. I slowly caressed my bloody, bruised forearms. I took into account the effect that the airbag deployment had on me, while at the same time how it saved my life. Compared to how I would have reacted and would have felt when my world was ruled by my past ego before the accident, I was now opposite of anger and opposite of vindictiveness. Instead, I was thankful to still have my arms functioning. I was thankful to still have blood flowing in me and, yes, even out of me at this moment. I was thankful for everything. I confirmed again with a verbal thank you to the universe. I walked over to the total vehicle as smoke from my past surrounded the new being of my present. I began to see the humbling cure of words as I repeated those that helped me heal the most. Thank you. More neighbors began to make their way out onto the midnight hour accident scene. The paramedics walked up and acknowledged me. I greeted them appreciatively, of course, with a thank you. As I sat back down on the curb to receive their assistance, I said so many thank yous to the others around me and to and for my life in and of itself, both past, present, and future, that I could not stop. I knew if the paramedics and officers had heard the old me cussing at life and yelling in vindictive anger about how others were to blame, I would have been strapped to the gurney, locked up and rolled up to jail, and most likely 5150'd into the nearest mental facility. They would have locked me up for craziness. Yet this evening, upon discovering the simplicity of the now, smiles of happiness and tears of joy from somewhere, anywhere, not just nowhere, but in the now here, began to flow. I was literally thankful, that being full of thanks for my life. I then repeated it 1,000 times or more upon the scene of this accident and upon the scene of my rebirth of my new life. It felt so good each and every time. I simply could not and would not stop. I had to say how I felt, and I had to feel how I wanted to be. Of that which I'm thankful. In summary, upon my awakening this evening, I found simplicity in life, a simplistic view of gratitude, of which I prescribe myself daily as I walk this blessed path called life. Steps per day, weeks per month, and months per year all began to flow in synchronicity as I walked in awareness, a newfound awareness, to be thankful for every minute of awakeness every day. During these steps, numbers came to me. For the average number of hours to the average human being to be awake, such as I per day, the number 16.67 hours then came to mind. Being an average human being who began to lead an average, normal, healthy human life after this accident and in and through sobriety, I, as a person, found myself sleeping an average of 7 to 8 hours per night. The average to this number, for this average equation, that beyond averagely came to somewhat of an average mind, was 7.33 hours. That of being asleep on the average. Thus, through insight and spiritual awareness, this then became the time of my nightly sleep goal to experience restful, enlightening, bountiful, peaceful, deep sleep, 7.33 hours, 7 1/3 hours. That is the number I focused on. That is the number I've lived by. That is the number I slept by. That is the number I then later did the math by. For the 60 minutes per hour times 16.67 that I am awake on average per day, I saw the exact number arise to the answer of 1,000. I then came to the conclusion that during my full time of conscious awakeness, I must subconsciously work to program my mindset and action set in life to be thankful. That is, thankful in every way for every minute of every day. Then the numerical answer dawned on me one morning as I began saying, thank you, God, thank you to the 1,000th power. Quote, no matter the less in life, no matter the more in life, learn to love life in every way by prescribing yourself happiness daily through awareness and gratitude. Thank you. Thank you, God, to the 1,000th power.